Being desirable to a man has been one of my major problems in my lifetime. And I know it's not funny at all, but when I look back, I think, oh my God, what a naive young woman I was. It's the world that we live in. It starts in our homes, our education systems, in our communities, in the sisterhood. We're so heavily invested at times on competing against each other for the affections and the attention of men that we totally forget that we were never designed to be something for men. It has been the biggest demise of my journey as a young woman, creating a person that would be more lovable or likable by a man or men, and feeling empty because of that. I never knew what that void was, but I always wanted to fill it. And whether it was the way that my body was shaped or the clothes that I wore or how I carried myself, whether I made myself less intelligent or went along with their needs and wants and rejected and ignored my own. It's eye-opening once you realize that you played this role for such a long time. But it's an amazing feeling once you stop. Being a woman of color and recently researching the path that my ancestors have walked, the way that we have been sexually objectified through colonization has been very confronting and painful, but also understanding that those are the pillars of how I've experienced sexism in a different way to maybe a woman that is not of color, and that it's passed down to generations after generations. We never was looked at as human beings from the get-go. I have felt that I haven't been beautiful enough or even looked at in the same light as a non-woman of color because of the color of my skin, and that for some reason that blackness it's dirty, and not even knowing that I had these ideals. And just to realize that sexism is something that has layers and levels to it as well. I always thought in the feminist movement that, yes, all women are gathered together to fight this fight. And not even realizing that actually I'm probably 2 or 3 steps down the totem pole than a European or Caucasian woman, and understanding that for myself. Not because I've overheard it or there's a report that's been placed out. You just can identify it through your path in life. So sexism affects women of color in a way that is quite distinct and should be acknowledged if we want to work together to build a collective of a sisterhood that can stamp this out, or to enlighten other women that what they are going through is sexist and that it's not okay. One of the major moments in my life that has shaped the woman that I am today would be being a survivor of domestic violence. It takes a level of courage to dismantle the abuse that has been projected onto you, the self-hate that is not yours, all these negative feelings and emotions and baggage that you never signed up for. And when I say being courageous, it takes courage to walk away from a situation like that, but also dismantle the mindset that you have adopted. So that was really hard for me to find myself all over again, to go back to basics and draw upon the love and support from your friends and family, to continue saying to yourself, I'm enough, I am unique, I am simply me, and that's okay. So for me, stepping out of that situation, I learned a lot about myself. And I learned that self-acceptance and self-love is something that, it's like a weapon. It's your armor as well. And being okay or forgiving yourself enough to say it wasn't your fault. And it's a lesson learned, but to keep moving on. To witness domestic violence in your childhood, violence against a female family member, it's a big shock. You wonder sometimes, could I have done anything to diffuse it, prevent it? But you just have to realize that you don't have power in those situations. So it leaves you feeling a certain way. There is judgment because you're young and you don't know. You have no idea how the cycle of abuse starts and how it goes round and round. And it's difficult for a woman to escape it. You also adopt the mentality like, it's never going to happen to me and I'll be strong. And I wouldn't be foolish enough to put myself in that situation. But as I found myself in that exact situation, it's not as easy as it seems. It's interesting once you understand the psychology of it. So when I hear other people express those same feelings that I felt, like, why would you enter in a relationship where he treats you this way, where he abuses you? I stop and think about the moments that I felt that way and how I could possibly change that person's mind and educate them. And sometimes I just step back and think, there's no point until you've lived that experience, or you can come to a place where you can be open enough to understand it. You will never understand how it feels. The way I make my voice heard in this sexist society that we live in is to speak up, to call out sexist behavior. I often think, am I doing enough? Am I educated enough? But I feel being present and experiencing, to a certain degree, how a woman might feel, or if a situation has taken place, how I can be more empathetic. Because I think we need to feel some of that pain, or to acknowledge it. That's the first step. Society does play a major part in how we look at ourselves as women, and sometimes we forget that we do have the ability to change that perception, change our narrative, change our lives to be what we want it to be as the woman that we define ourselves as.